But I do know that the Lord is prompting me to urge us to get ready for that great and dreadful day.
Welcome to Searching Isaiah. I'm your host, Randy Brown. This will be a short series of insights on Isaiah for those who desire to have eyes to see and gain the spirit of prophecy in these end times. Well, hello, everyone. This is Randy Brown. Welcome back to, I believe this is our 20th week of Searching Isaiah. I can't believe how fast this has gone. I hope this is helping. I hope it's making sense. It's with kind of a somber heart today that I record this. I want to take time to just acknowledge what's happening in the world. When I heard about President Nelson's passing night before last, I just had this feeling that his time of prophetic warnings has come to an end. That he's delivered the message that he was intended to deliver by the Lord. And as I've stated on this podcast, I feel like his warnings were very much in alignment with Isaiah. And President Nelson has said we're living in the days that Nephi saw in vision. And of course, Nephi used the words of Isaiah to prophesy of our day. And I think it's quite telling that in President Nelson's final conference talk, he urged us to prepare for the great and dreadful day. And the events of yesterday with what happened to the saints in Michigan and this horrible tragedy just is evidence of the escalating evil and division, and even greater confirmation of President Nelson's words about feeling this urgency for us to prepare, and of course the words of Nephi and Isaiah. And so this brings us to the importance of the homework assignment that I gave on the last episode. I don't know if you remember that I gave a homework assignment, but the homework assignment was to take the things you've learned so far, maybe get an unmarked copy of the Book of Mormon, and to go through 2nd Nephi, and to maybe use color coding, and try to increase your capacity to have eyes to see what Nephi was seeing in vision when he encoded it in the words of Isaiah throughout the book of 2nd Nephi. And I think this homework assignment was intended to help each of us, gain eyes to see not only what Nephi was talking about and what Isaiah was talking about, but also what President Nelson has been warning us and promising us, that aligns so perfectly with, in my opinion, with Nephi's vision. So I wanted to share this. This really excited me. It lets me know that there are listeners out there that are really trying to dive into this. And this was a listener who, when I shared the chiasm in 1 Nephi 22, she dove in and she actually found, I guess originally what she thought was one large chiasm, and she's been able to break it down into 3 that she's seeing. And so you see where the hearts are. This is the center of the chiasm. This one is interesting. He will not suffer that the wicked shall destroy the righteous. He will preserve the righteous by his power. So I would agree. Anytime you see a prophetic message that powerful, that's usually at the center of a chiasm. This next one, the center was, and it And it shall come to pass that all those who will not hear that prophet shall be cut off from among the people. And then this final one, in him they shall find pasture, and he shall feed his sheep. So heads up to, and kudos to her for her work on that and for sharing that with me. This is the larger one that she found. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but maybe if you want to maybe take a picture of the screen or whatever, I think she really nailed it. And this was in First Nephi 22, verses 15 through 26. So when you begin to see these kind of things, it's like your eyes are really open to what Isaiah is saying, what Nephi is saying. Because she approached me with this, I searched again through First Nephi 22, and I found a chiasm. It was in verses 15 through 17. And of course, the center of it was, he will not suffer the wicked to destroy the righteous. He will preserve the righteous by his power. So sometimes there's chiasms within chiasms. And it's miraculous how the Lord does this. And so as I did the homework assignment, I did it as well. And if you haven't done it, please go do it. It'll be life-changing. So my findings as I did this assignment this week was that Second Nephi aligns with President Nelson's warning. I didn't know that President Nelson was going to pass away when I started this, but I feel like he's left us with this message of preparing for the great and dreadful day. So in Second Nephi is speaking unto everyone. He's speaking unto those who will receive hereafter these things. So he's speaking to us in this end time. We're the ones that will receive it hereafter. And he's all of these Isaiah chapters in Second Nephi are speaking about the end time judgments that are going to come upon Babylon. And so, how many times have people read or studied the Book of Mormon and just gone right past the Isaiah chapters without paying the price to know what's really being said? I know I've been guilty of it. I just think it's so vital that we see and identify what these things are. So, in essence, Nephi is summarizing for us in the end time using Isaiah's words about the day of the Lord, this day of judgment, the restoration of the house of Israel, the great and marvelous work, and the coming of Jesus Christ. All of those things were things that President Nelson warned us and promised us about. Nephi didn't just begin including Isaiah chapters and then run out of room. He very meticulously included judgment chapters that apply to us, that are a warning for our day. He also includes verses on deliverance, which is also a promise for our day. So we need to take these Isaiah chapters seriously. There's very, very sacred and important reasons why they have been included. So I'm just going to kind of fly through my work on this homework assignment, and this might be helpful to you as you go and do it as well if you haven't yet. So starting with 2 Nephi chapter 12, and this is the same as Isaiah chapter 2. So if you want to go pull up Isaiah chapter 2 and look at the Isaiah Institute translation, it might make it a little simpler, and then you can put notes in your Book of Mormon. But here in chapter 12 of 2 Nephi, what I saw was it's about the king, this destruction that the king of Assyria is going to bring. And so Nephi's seeing this, and he's warning us using Isaiah's words about the destruction of nations, cities, peoples, idolaters, the lofty and the haughty. And the Book of Mormon is filled with numerous types of this Antichrist, this king of Assyria. Skipping over to the next chapter, 13. One of the main things I saw was he's warning a nation that a nation's going to disintegrate from within. And again, Nephi is using Isaiah's words to prophesy about America. So he's saying America is going to disintegrate from within. Now, I want to be careful. My purpose in doing these Isaiah classes is not to interpret Isaiah for anybody. It's just to kind of have us have tools to begin to see how the Jews prophesied and how we can use these tools to see for ourselves what Isaiah was doing. Then skipping to 2 Nephi 14, it's talking about Zion, the New Jerusalem, and that it will be a canopy and a shelter from the shade and from the storm. And again, there's, these Isaiah code words being used. The storm is this end time antichrist, this end time arch tyrant, but Zion will be a place of protection from it. And then 2 Nephi 15, we talked about this one in an episode a couple of weeks ago. Here he's talking about what happens to his vineyard, that the hedge of protection will be removed. And again, remember, when Nephi uses Isaiah, he's talking about America, that the hedge of protection will be removed. They'll be trampled and burned by invaders. They'll get to the point where they call evil good and good evil. And then it talks about the king of Assyria's destruction. 2 Nephi 16, again, this is Isaiah 6. This is about Isaiah's experience with becoming sanctified and ascending to a son-servant level. And it seems to me he's given this to us to show us a model of how we can prepare. And then he says, woe to these people. When he uses these people, it's those that are out of the covenant, those that are not his people. He talked about our need for eyes to see, ears to hear, hearts to understand, and how Isaiah's ministry can serve as a type of Jehovah's servant in the end time. And then he asks the question, how long? And the Lord answers, until utter destruction. So, this is a prophecy again of America that Nephi's encoding. And a good word search would be to go search the scriptures for that term, utter destruction. Talks about the holy offspring, the tenth of the tenth that will be left standing, and the one who fells the trees, or the people, the elites, is this king of Assyria. So how many times have we read the Book of Mormon and just missed out on so much because it was encoded with Isaiah's words? And then 2 Nephi 17, he's talking about, it's about King Ahaz, who was a Davidic king, but chose not to keep the terms of the covenant. And Isaiah meets with him and promises him divine protection, as long as he keeps the terms of the covenant, and he chose not to. Will we see something like that in our day? 2 Nephi 18. This is about it defines that the king of Assyria is the one who will plunder and spoil, and that the Lord will commission him. The Lord commissions two individuals. He commissions a left hand, which is the king of Assyria. He commissions a right hand, which is his servant, or this physical deliverer. Here he's saying, I will commission him, the king of Assyria, against a godless nation. And so he's seeing what happens to America. And of course, there's a division, and there are those who, will be true to the God of this land, but it actually becomes a nation that is not ruled by godly people. And that this king of Assyria will pillage for plunder, spoliate for spoil. And then there's a really interesting thing that we haven't really talked about yet on the podcast, how Isaiah names three of his sons. He wasn't allowed to just prophesy openly. And so he does it more overtly, I guess, covertly maybe. He names one of his sons Meher Shalal Hashbaz, which means hasten the plunder, hurry the spoil. So he was named one of his sons to define a remnant, or a level of people who would experience this plunder and this spoil of the king of Assyria. we could say this is the Babylon level. And this is the result of the Lord's people who are disloyal to their covenants. And the king of Assyria will rise up to their very neck. And then he named one of his sons Shear-Jashub, which means a remnant shall repent and return. And these are those who rise up and are born again, come to a Zion level. And he also named one of his sons Emmanuel, which means God is with us. And this is a celestial level of people, those who become his elect. And of course, the word Isaiah means Jehovah will save. And so did a little visual here. Emmanuel, the name of one of his sons, means God is with us. Has to do with a celestial group of people. Shear-Jashub, a remnant shall return, has to do with a group that awakes and arises and becomes the Zion, Jerusalem level. And then a son he named Maher-Shalal-Hashbaz, which is a warning to those that who are of a celestial level, that the plunder and spoil of this king of Assyria will remove them. Jumping on to 2 Nephi 19, those in darkness will come to light. And I won't read all of this, but these are just, you can take a picture of this. These are just all things that I picked out of Isaiah or 2 Nephi 19 or Isaiah 9 that have to do with this great and marvelous work, the Lord's servant, the Lord's left hand, the king of Assyria, how Babylon will be destroyed. This, it's all a warning, and we miss it if we don't take time to. I think everybody within the sound of my voice, should really take these Second Nephi chapters very seriously. Make sure you understand and know what's in Second Nephi, and I think you'll be in good shape. So more here. You can take a picture of it. Is a warning that wickedness shall be set ablaze like fire. I'm using red here for the because it has to do with Babylon. Jungle forests. These forests and trees have to do with cities and people, and how the king of Assyria will burn them, and it shall billow upward in mushrooming clouds of smoke in a single day, which is the day of the Lord, or the day of the king of Assyria. So we see these just very direct warnings for America here in these days that, President Nelson has said, we live in the days that Nephi saw in vision. But sometimes it takes seeing how Isaiah words it to fully comprehend. Here he's talking about the day of reckoning, the day of Jehovah's day of judgment, that Jehovah will remove his righteous people, and that it's destruction by fire and by the sword. This is all Jehovah's day of judgment that comes upon Jehovah's people that have mixed with Babylon and will be removed. And I will commission him. This is the king of Assyria against a godless nation. There we've already talked about that one a little bit. So take pictures of these if you want to. These are just some of the things I pulled out that I feel I was being taught about these particular chapters in 2 Nephi. Here in chapter 20, when he talks about the branch that grows out of the stem of Jesse, this end-time Davidic servant that is grafted into the stem of Jesse. And there's so much there. It talks about 3 messianic individuals. We'll talk about more of this maybe in some upcoming episodes. He talks about my servant whom I sustain. And again, the color coding lets you know that it's Jehovah, referring to someone who is his servant, and that he sustains him, his chosen one in whom he delights. Him have I endowed with my spirit. Makes it very clear that there's 2 very distinct individuals, the Lord and someone who he's appointed. And then also here in 2 Nephi, we have verse 12, where it talks, he will raise the ensign to the nation. He being Jehovah, the ensign being this servant that he empowers, that he endows, and he will assemble the exiled of Israel and gather the scattered of Judah from the four parts of the earth. And here again, this is this visual we used a couple of episodes ago, where the stock of Jesse is the tree that's been cut down. The gospel's been taken from Israel and given to the Gentiles, which becomes this shoot, this water sprout that springs up and in essence, keeps the roots alive. So this is the gospel going from Israel to the Gentiles, and then in the time of the fullness of the Gentiles, these servants are called to go out and bring back the Jews and the 10 tribes and the Lehi seed, and this is all in the Book of Mormon. This sprig being grafted in. He raises his hand, creates a pathway out of Assyria, and this exodus takes place from the four parts of the earth. 2 Nephi 22, in that day. Remember, anytime we see in that day, it's talking about this this time when the great and marvelous work is taking place, but also it's the great and dreadful day. And we will say, this is our God in whom we expected would save us. This is Jehovah for whom we have waited. This will be the great test that we go through, this great descent phase, when we prove loyal to our covenants under all conditions, even when things look so bleak and so impossible, that we have to trust in Jehovah without fear, even when the odds of deliverance seem hopeless. So I don't know how many of you have ever really thought that all this is just sitting right there before us in the Book of Mormon and 2 Nephi. But up to now, we just probably haven't had eyes to see. Here he talks about his two arms. We will joyfully celebrate his salvation. That's the arm of Jehovah, and praising and joy in deliverance, which is the Lord's servant. 2 Nephi 23, here he gives an oracle to Babylon. The fact that this is included in the Book of Mormon, it's referring to Babylon here in America. I have called my holy ones, called out my valiant ones. My anger is not upon those who take pride in me. So there's this calling out of his valiant ones, his covenant keepers, that he will protect them and prepare them for their end time mission. And this is during the day of the Lord. And that's going to come as a cruel outburst of anger and wrath. So a lot of things we've already talked about, but now you see him in the Book of Mormon and realize that he's seeing what's going to take place on this continent. That he will make mankind scarcer than fine gold. That's that celestial level. He's through all of this, he's refining and stripping away the dross, creating this precious level of gold and silver, celestial level people. And so we get to 2 Nephi 25. And this is where Nephi, he takes a break from just quoting Isaiah word for word, and he gives his own prophecy. He summarizes things in his own manner of plainness. And so here he's saying, for I, Nephi, have not taught them many of the things concerning the manner of the Jews. So he's talking about his children. For their works were works of darkness, and their doings were doings of abominations. Wherefore I write unto my people, and then he also says, unto all those who will receive these things thereafter. So we are his target audience. But because he's veiled it in Isaiah's words, he's talking, I think, specifically to those of us who will pay the price to really see what he's put here in 2 Nephi. And I think what President Nelson has said, we're living in the days that Nephi's seen only in vision. He's talking about these judgments. He's placed all of this in here because he's talking about the day of judgment. From verse 4, wherefore hearken, O my people, which are of the house of Israel, and give ear unto my words. For because the words of Isaiah are not plain unto you, nevertheless they are plain unto all those who are filled with the spirit of prophecy. I had a guest come up this weekend and visit. He and his wife came up from St. George, and he has been really, really diving into Isaiah. And one of his comments yesterday is how by learning this manner of prophecy amongst the Jews, these keywords, these linking words, these chiasms and things, that Isaiah's words are becoming plain to him. And I agree with him. I think that's happening for me too. But I give unto you a prophecy according to the Spirit which is in me. Wherefore I shall prophesy according to the plainness which hath been with me from the time that I came out of Jerusalem with my father. For behold, my soul delighteth in plainness unto my people. So Nephi he just longed to say this in plainness. Unfortunately, the Lord put him under some restrictions and said that this is for John the Revelator to write about. But Isaiah has also encoded it, and you can use his words. Yea, my soul delighteth in the words of Isaiah, for I came out of Jerusalem, and mine eyes have beheld the things of the Jews, and I know that the Jews do understand the things of the prophets. And there is none of the people that understand the things which were spoken unto the Jews like unto them, save it be they are taught after the manner of the things of the Jews. I just think it's so amazing that we live in a time now where someone like Avraham Gileadi, who studied the things of the Jews, he went to rabbinical school, and he's learned these things so that he can share these tools with us, so that we can learn for ourselves what Isaiah was saying, and learn for ourselves what Nephi saw in vision. Behold, I proceed with mine own prophecy according to my plainness, in the which I know that no man can err. Nevertheless, in the days, again, there we see it again, it's this end time period of the great and marvelous work, that the prophecies of Isaiah shall be fulfilled. Men shall know of a surety at the times when they shall come to pass. So he's giving a prophecy in plainness that there's going to come a day where there's going to be those of us who see this, and we will know of a surety at the time that these things come to pass. We may not know in advance exactly how everything plays out, but when it begins to play out, because we have paid the price, we'll say, oh, okay, yep, I saw that. I've seen that. So he's prophesying to us, those of us who are paying this price. Skipping ahead to verse 8, wherefore they are of worth unto the children of men, and he that supposeth that they are not, unto them will I speak particularly. So he's speaking to those who maybe have not understood this worth that Isaiah's words are. And the Savior has said, great are the words of Isaiah, and then he commands us to search them. And then he goes on, for I know that they shall be of great worth unto them in the last days. And there's evidence of who his target audience is. For in that day they shall understand them. And I just think we're on the cusp of this prophecy of Nephi being fulfilled. And I think we're just kind of the tip of the spear here. Wherefore, for their good have I written them. So Nephi's instructing us to search these veiled warnings about the day of judgment and promises, and I think that this is hidden for a very specific reason, that it's for those who have this burning in this fire in their bones, to become the kings and queens in this end time, to carry out this gathering of Israel in power and great glory. And so whenever we see a chiasm, it's kind of like the prophet is saying, look here, focus here. This is the mystery, or this is the prophecy. And this is verse 17. And the Lord will set his hand, again the second time. It's so important to look at words. Nephi was so meticulous in using the words of Isaiah, and here he's actually, he's speaking plainly, but in speaking plainly, he quotes this from Isaiah, and he's just meticulous in and making every word fit perfectly. So he's talking about the Lord setting his hand again a second time. This is so important for us to understand. This his hand plays this role in the gathering of Israel with power and great glory. And this is, he will proceed to do a marvelous work and a wonder. Like President Nelson has been saying, we're going to see the greatest miracles the world has ever seen. And I guess I invite all of us to not put aside our telestial minds, our telestial way of thinking. I think to understand this, we have to think celestial, as President Nelson has also spoken about. I think we're going to see how President Nelson's words just, we're going to see what he was really saying, I guess maybe at a deeper level. So here we're at the center of a chiasm in verse 17. The Lord will set again his hand the second time and proceed to do this marvelous work and a wonder. And we've talked in the past about his hand is his servant. A second time, the first time was the servant Moses, who was hidden until it was time for him to come forth as this deliverer, this seraph level being with such great powers. But the Lord is going to repeat this a second time. So why is Nephi being so precise in his words? Nephi's precise words of Isaiah's code names and code words, I think, the ultimate purpose is to point us and the house of Israel to be restored to Jesus Christ. And so also here in 2 Nephi 25, there's a chiasm. And maybe take a picture of this, but at the very center is we talk of Christ, we rejoice in Christ, we preach of Christ, and we prophesy of Christ, that Christ is the answer. Here's a group of people that they're keeping the law of Moses. Here we see the first element up here. And longing for the day when it's done away. And then in 2 Nephi 28, he that putteth his man, this is a small chiasm, he that putteth his trust in man or maketh flesh his arm, I will be merciful unto them. And then the last element, mine arm is lengthened out all the day. 2 Nephi 29, a marvelous work. Remember my covenant. Raise my hand a second time. A standard or ensign would be what the Hebrew would use. And then down to 14, gathered home, I have covenanted with Abraham. I would remember his seed forever. Once we see these words, it's just marvelous. It's marvelous what Nephi is putting before our eyes, if we have eyes to see. So again, I want to emphasize that I don't represent the church. I don't hold any keys. I'm just like everyone else. I'm seeking to keep this commandment of the Savior, to search Isaiah, because I believe that I've been directed that these words are so essential for our spiritual survival. But I think it's so important that if we're going to do that, we can go and assign any meaning we want, I guess, to what's in Isaiah or what Nephi's saying. But I think it's important to take into account how meticulous Isaiah was in the use of his words and how he structured them. And also to see how meticulous Nephi is being in using his words with precision. And so I invite all of you, if you haven't yet, to make yourselves very, very familiar with these Nephi chapters in 2 Nephi, and so that it's never a question again. And you know for a fact that this is a warning of the days we live in, the day of judgment. And I do believe that President Nelson has faithfully completed his prophetic purposes in testifying of these things, and how perfectly they seem to match up with Nephi's warnings as well.